guys, and welcome to another episode of Rail the Gutter, man. Today is a special one. My first ever CBR race, which I thought was gonna go, at least decently well, turned out to be a complete flop. I get dropped, and there was some very specific reasons why that happened. But before we get into them, let's get into the race. So right off the bat, I jumped the line and I jump third wheel. So I'm in third wheel. This is a slight rolling downhill if you've never been to a CBR, and we're going about 32, 33 miles an hour from what I remember correctly. Maybe in the footage it looks a little different, but from what I remember that day, we were going really fast down this hill. And I have yet to actually pedal. I was pretty much coasting that whole hill. So I catch up to this guy's wheel, and everything's looking good. Everything's butter at this point. And then roughly at about right here is when I start to feel this sort of like burning sensation in my lungs. Like I'm actually wheezing and I just cannot catch my breath. So I was kind of having a slight exercise induced asthma, I believe that's what it's called, like kind of a moment. My lungs were hurting so much from breathing in cold air that I just could not function. And I think to myself, crap, like I'm gonna get dropped if I don't do something. So I start to kind of peel off to the right hand side. I'm looking over my shoulder, make sure that I don't bump into anyone, and they don't bump into me while I'm kind of moving over. And at this point I don't realize, like, oh shit, like I'm really close to the inside, because as soon as the curb comes up, I get pinched really close to that curb and I almost hit it with my pedal. Luckily I was able to actually negotiate that turn really well, keep the rubber down, didn't bump into anyone. And I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to stick to the back of the group in order to survive. I want to finish this race. So my initial thoughts were, hell yeah, you're gonna crush the shit out of this. That turned into, oh fuck, like I'm gonna have to like survive one way or another. So I'm gonna have to jump onto somebody's wheel here to just hang on to the back of the group and either recuperate and just kind of, try to do my best, or recuperate and, hopefully finish in a much better position, or just hang on to the back of the group and, wish for the best. So that's what I'm trying to do now. I'm looking around and I noticed some guys still behind me. So I'm like, okay, these got to be the last two guys. If these are the last two guys, I'm screwed if I don't jump on their wheel. And that's what I'm trying to do at this point. I'm trying to hang on to their wheels and basically just survive. And unfortunately, that just doesn't happen. I try to basically catch onto those wheels, and I just can't. I can't close that gap down, man. I'm so gassed at this point that my lungs are on complete fire. I'm wheezing so much that I get gassed and I pretty much get dropped off from the entire group. The whole group at this point is about maybe close to the finish line, except for us way back here. So it was a very depressing day for me, man. I had already been dropped basically by the lap and a half, so yeah, there's a couple of takeaways that we can learn from this. So one of the main things that I learned from this race was that you have to warm up, even if it's like summertime, springtime, even if the weather is nice outside, like early in the morning. These races for category 5s are really early. They're at 7 in the morning. And this is in wintertime. So 7 in the morning, wintertime, air is about 43, 45. It's slightly colder when you're checking in. So it's maybe like 38, maybe even colder than that. So warming up is essential. Like that's an absolute necessity. Like if you don't do it, this is probably going to happen to you, unless you're like some freak of nature and you can just like breathe in any like kind of temperature and you're going to be good to go, which I have yet to meet that kind of person. But if you are, good for you. But key takeaways is that you gotta warm up, man. Winter, spring, summer, fall, whatever, warm up. It's important. The other thing that I learned personally for myself is that I still got to learn how to ride around people. I'm not a very good pack rider. I do a lot of my riding by myself, maybe sometimes with one or two other people, usually just by myself or one other person. And I still have yet to learn a lot of pack riding skills, So being around a lot of people kind of made me nervous. The other thing that I learned was that when you're going to these races, you got to kind of calm down on some of the tension, your nerves, your excitement, because that's going to cause your heart rate to jump up and you're going to be way too excited. You're going to start making mistakes right off the bat. And that was something else that I did. I sprinted just to stay at the front of the group to avoid getting dropped, which ended up happening anyway. So that was something else that I learned. And then the last takeaway, man, was that getting dropped, is inevitable. It's going to happen to, I believe, almost everyone at some point. So instead of seeing it as a negative, see it as a positive. If you get dropped, screw it. There's always more races. Just make sure that you stay safe when you go out there, and just take that experience and learn from it. It's going to be good for you. So at this point, I take out the rear view camera because there's no one behind me. I am literally the last person from the dropped individuals at this point. And I'm gasping for air because I'm thinking I still got maybe like 2 more laps in me. Like I'm going to have to get a place. Like I cannot get a DNP. I cannot get a DNP. I see the ref right at the start finish line, and I see him waving his hands. He's like, your race is done. I was upset, but I was very happy at the same time just to stop and catch my breath for once. So that's how it went, man. I got dropped, but it is what it is. But that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys subscribe, and I'll catch you guys at the next one.